Welcome to the Archetypal Mosaic. This is Mikhail. Today we have an extraordinary guest, Dr. Adrian David Cheok. I'd like to remind listeners that this episode is of a mature nature and is meant for adults who are interested in the subject of sex with robots. Dr. Adrian David Cheok is a director of the Imagineering Institute Malaysia and chair professor of Pervasive Computing at City, University of London. He's founder and director of the Mixed Reality Lab, Singapore. He was formerly full professor at Keio University, Graduate School of Media Design, and associate professor in the National University of Singapore. He has previously worked in real-time systems, soft computing, and embedded computing in Mitsubishi Electric Research Labs, Japan. This show is not meant to diagnose, treat, or provide advice on medical, sexual, emotional, or psychological topics. It's meant for entertainment and personal education. Welcome to the show, Dr. Cheok.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be on the show.
How important is emotion in sex and communication? And is the approach to making the sexual robots to be more human or less human?
Yes, a very good question. So I think for the emotion part, it's not so easy to answer for the whole human population because there is variation. There's certainly a percentage of the population which can enjoy can enjoy sexual activity without necessarily feeling emotion. And we already know that even people can use the service of prostitutes, where you're just basically paying money and it's a kind of a transaction. So obviously that it is definitely already possible in human society that people don't necessarily need to have emotion, or at least not very much emotion, to enjoy sex. But on the other hand, on the other side, there would be a lot of people that would not want to have sex without being in love, and or maybe even being married, and so I think most people maybe would fit somewhere in between that spectrum. That maybe they would prefer to have emotion, emotional feelings with their sexual partner, but at the same time, it's possible once or twice or three times in your life that you have a sexual contact without any necessarily having emotion. So I think probably most people fit somewhere in between those two sides of the spectrum. And how realistic should the robots be? Well, I think that again it depends on how much the person is placing emphasis on the, let's say, visual aspect. So it is very, very important for a person that they're having sex with someone who's visually pleasing. Then I think they'll place high importance on the humanoid realism of the robot. But for someone else, maybe the emotional part is more important. So then robots which are simulating emotion, I personally don't think robots will have a consciousness. I may be wrong, but I think that robots are still essentially programmable machines, programmable computers, but I think they can simulate emotion and simulate intelligence to a very, very high degree that we can't tell the difference. So effectively they are emotional from the sense of us observing. So then in that case maybe the robot doesn't have to be very realistic. Maybe it kind of looks metallic or more like a robot, but you have a lot of emotional feeling for the robot. So for the most part, I think it will vary. It varies with the personality of the person. There is correlation between emotion and sex, but it depends on the person how strong that correlation is.
That's wonderful. And it's interesting that I think at your conference I will be partially discussing the possibility of consciousness in these beings, interestingly. Tell me, please, your origins of the interest in this topic. Now, you are a very well-learned man. with also a professor. What got you into this particular topic?
Well, my background is electrical and electronic engineering. So, ever since I was very young, I was very interested in robotics as a subject. And in my formative years, when I was a fresh graduate, as you mentioned earlier, I worked at Mitsubishi Electric. I was in Japan, and Japan used to be world leader in robotics. I think America is now, but at that time it was Japan, and it was just fascinating for me, the whole area of robotics. And I also became very interested in the area called mixed reality, where we're merging the real and the virtual world. And if you think about it, a robot is the kind of a physical representation of the virtual world. It's like you have the artificial intelligence, you've got connection to internet, and you've got the computer, which is the brain of the robot, and it's a physical being. So it's a physical representation of virtual world. And the opposite, of course, is that we can have virtual characters, 3D graphical characters, and even now you can go and see movies. Probably the very famous case is the last Star Wars movie, Rogue One, where we saw, Princess Leia again. Amazing, but it was just computer graphics it looks so realistic. So it looks like a real person. So we can do both now. We can have very realistic robots, humanoid robots in the physical world, and very realistic humans in the virtual world. And so I think my main interest come from that background, and just by very lucky, I guess a lot of things in life is kind of serendipity. Coincidence even. I met Dr. David Levy, and he was the author of a book called Love and Sex with Robots, which was published about 10 years ago, and it was a very well-read book. It made a lot of impact, and his background is artificial intelligence. In fact, he was a chess master. I think it was a chess master in United Kingdom for 3 or 4 years. So he was very interested in artificial intelligence, computers that can play chess. And then he got into that topic. He wrote the book, and so I think when we met, we found we had very quite similar interests, and also David Levy is not part of academia. He's a scientist, but he's working purely privately, writing books, and running some companies. And I think he was also looking for someone in academia that could look at the academic perspective of this topic, because I think there's a lot of very, very deep academic aspects of this topic. So one is, of course, the technology, the engineering, how are we going to make these robots, how they're going to be intelligent, how do we program robots to be emotional. But also there's the ethical aspects, and people are even thinking about legal aspects. In fact, at the last Love and Sex with Robots conference in London, Dr. David Levy gave a keynote speech, and he predicted that by 2050 it'll be legal to marry a robot. So even talking about legal issues of robotics. So I think this topic has been it's been in human consciousness for many years, I guess. And then I think Dr. David Levy's book kind of really started this to be a very well-known topic, and now I think it's become very well known, and a lot of serious academics are really thinking that this is going to happen, and that it's a very exciting area for research. And from a personal point of view, I like to do very different things in my research. I like to push the barriers. I'm a bit of, I guess you could say I'm a bit of a rebel. So to me, there's a lot of, honestly speaking, a lot of academics that have spoken against this conference and say it shouldn't be held. So there is still a lot of academics who feel this is not a suitable topic. But I think also my perspective, I like to really push the boundaries of research and be rebellious. So it also fits my personality as well, to kind of push the barriers of research.
That's fascinating. Let me ask you this. So if we look back in time, there's the golem who is not quite a robot, but a being created by man for purpose. Then, if we look at the sex dolls, they have the plastic ones or the silicone ones in the stores. And virtual reality, even now, it's very dinosaur-like. We have to put those big things on to stick the phone in, and it looks like something from the early 80s to me, and we're not really submersed into the virtual reality because it's sitting on our head like a big blob. So my question to you is, in the future, because virtual reality, in a sense, can actually be a virtual consciousness, if somebody can be believe enough, or it can intake them. Let me ask you, so how are sex robots different than sex dolls? For example, will they be able to move by themselves, have a natural rhythm and flow, or are they fully only programmable, or do they just lie there like a doll? The other part of this question is the virtual aspect. Is there a way for the doll to virtually penetrate the brain, to somehow take the user into a different space, almost like a natural form of a drug?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Very good question. So, for the sex doll part, I think it's definitely part of the evolution. Just like when I was a kid, we had pocket calculators in school, but that actually was the first step to the personal computer. To have these kind of digital computer. They couldn't do much at the time, just add, subtract, and multiply. But that was the start of the microchip and leading on to personal computer. So I think it's definitely part of the evolution to have these sex dolls. But like you said, they're dolls. They're not. They don't move. They don't have any consciousness. They don't have any appearance of consciousness at all. And so I think what the aim and what the end state of this research will be, and finally, of course, there'll be commercial products. We'll have realistic humanoid robots which have artificial intelligence, digital brains, artificial intelligence. They can understand, very, very importantly, is that they can understand human language. So, you need to be able to talk to someone, to have empathy for them. It's very difficult to have empathy out if you can't understand each other. There'll be the natural language as well, very, very critical part. And then, of course, we also will have personalities. We'll give personalities to the robots. If someone enjoys the kind of relationship where a lot of friction and maybe some argument, then they might want an argumentative robot. And some people prefer relationships where it's very calm, there's no friction, then you have a very calm robot. So I think robots also will have personality. So there's a software side. I think what's missing with the sex dolls is two main parts. One is the software, the artificial intelligence and the software, and the second one is the mechanics. So the movement, you can't, they don't move. But when we, eventually the robots will be humanoid, they'll be able to move just like humans, walking, moving, any kind of action, and also they will have the artificial intelligence, the software part. This is the part which is now under research, and believe it or not, it's still very difficult to have a computer to understand human speech. I think we've all used our smartphone to, talk to Google or talk to the, Apple Siri. But, it's still very, very basic, and there's a lot of research to be done just in that area. So when all these different areas come together, then I think we'll have, what we consider to be, the next generation of sex robots. And if we even go back even further, a few thousand years, the Greeks had a very famous story, a myth about a sculptor called Pygmalion, and he made a statue which he made the statue. He thought it was so beautiful that he fell in love with his own statue, the statue that he made, and then it's kind of a myth, and then the gods bring the statue to life, and they get married or whatever. But obviously people have been thinking about this for thousands of years has kind of been in the human consciousness. It's not only a recent phenomenon. I think people have been thinking about this and they want it. So I think with the technology moving so quickly, it's definitely going to happen. Within our lifetimes, I think. And sorry, I forgot the second part of your question.
Certainly. I wanted to ask you, the second part was about the virtual reality aspect. It's about, can the robot, or is there such a plan for the robot to take the person into a virtual sexual journey so that it's not just a physical situation, especially now, there's just a silicone doll laying there, so there's really no interaction. But when these robots, as opposed to just the dolls, will they be able to move and penetrate and do all these things with their own kind of choices, or is the person going to program them every move? And the virtual aspect is, can the robot, can this creature somehow maybe hypnotize or place the person into a virtual state of consciousness?
Yes. Very good question, and I think yes, definitely we will be able to fall in love and have sex with robots in the virtual world. I mean, there was a movie a couple of years ago called Her, about the man who fell in love with a virtual character. He couldn't even see her. It was just a voice.
Oh yes.
But everyone could easily predict that this could be true. You could fall in love with a character even if you can't see her. You just hear her voice. But let alone now with virtuality, like you said, the headsets are still quite clunky. They're quite big. I think it's to do with the optics. It's quite difficult to get them much smaller. But nevertheless, we already do have 360 degrees virtual reality, and we can enter a virtual world. And just like when people watch a movie. They can forget about their life. They kind of feel, if you see a very good movie, you forget everything. You kind of just immerse in this movie. It's a great feeling, and I think that if it goes to 3D virtual reality, people will be able to feel as if they're in this virtual environment, and feel like they're really there. I think if we provide the 3D high resolution graphics, the sound. And then we have some devices on our body which can put pressure and stimulate the body with haptics or touch. Then I think it can be very, very immersive and actually I think probably some of the first content. Right now, a lot of these head-mount displays coming out, 3D virtual reality. I think a lot of the content is of, sexually related nature and pornography. Just like when the internet first started, I think half of the traffic was pornography, and it, in some way it's okay because it allows these technologies to grow because that's how a lot of these new technologies make money. But now internet is used for everything. You book a taxi, you use Uber, and you book a hotel, you use Airbnb. So now everything has become part of the internet. So I think it wasn't necessarily a bad thing that in the early days of internet that a lot of it was about pornography. So, and I think similarly for virtuality, it's going to be like that, and it's going to drive the technology to even more and more and more realistic levels. So I think yes. I think basically it's highly correlated. The robot is a physical representation of a virtual character, but we can also do the opposite. We can go into the virtual world ourselves. So I think it's very, very highly correlated. The robot, physical robot, and virtual robot, and we can have sex with both, either or of these robots.
What, very cool. Let's talk about how these incredible robots can help society in a way. Older people who still want to enjoy sex, sometimes they may feel shame because of age, maybe because of the way their body is, or maybe because they can't find partners. And so, in those cases, along with many others, for adults of their older age, it would be a wonderful thing to have because they'd be able to enjoy their sexuality. Can you talk about that and also all the other kind of benefits in society that this could fill?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that, these technologies are going to increase, human happiness. And you mentioned about elderly people. A lot of elderly people are very lonely. And, I think I saw a recent survey which was done in UK that, 40% of elderly people have no physical, they have no physical contact with anybody. They're just watching TV in their house, and maybe they get a telephone call every now and then. But they have no contact with the other humans, so other people. So a lot of very lonely people, and then also. People who maybe very shy, could be autistic, maybe they find it difficult to make human relations. And there's also disabled people born with disabilities. There's a lot of people that went to war, and they, even in America, a lot of people went to war in the Middle East and come out with disabilities. And I think we tend to assume that everyone in society that wants to have sex can have sex, but I think there's a lot of people. I don't know what the percentage is, but it must be fairly high. A lot of people don't have the ability to find a sexual partner or have a sexual partner, and they don't want to visit a prostitute, for some reason or another, so the love and sex robots could really fulfill a human need and increase their happiness. And it might not just be sex, but it's like you said, maybe it is elderly people. We've been thinking aloud about, can we make a grandmother robot? Can we get a computer to chat with grandmother, every day and model her personality, so that if grandmother passed away, you can have a grandmother robot and she can just talk and be like grandmother to grandfather. So I think the love part is just as important as the sex part, and that can really help to increase people's happiness, decrease loneliness, and a lot of people do have a lot of loneliness and sadness because they can't find a partner, or they've lost a partner. So I think robots can fulfill this need. Maybe they won't be perfect. Maybe they won't be perfect reproduction of humans, but if it's 80 or 90%, it's good enough. And I think people will be happy with such robots. You brought up a lot of really important points, especially about the people in our society who it's not possible or easy to get sex, and how this could bring them happiness. That's a very important point that you're absolutely right that many people don't even consider thinking about. Another way that they could be used is in prisons as conjugal visits instead of them, because it would be a way to supply that demand without any kind of with a very kind of safe way, I'd say. What do you think about that? Yes, well, you do hear a lot of cases of, there's some rape happening in prisons, and there's not enough done to prevent it. And if you compare that situation with maybe having a robot, then I think it will be better, because we don't want a situation where people get raped or forced to have sex against their will. So I mean, there is some ethical concerns because then people are saying, it's bad for the robot. But I think if you compare the two, we definitely would like to prevent bad things happening. So I think that also could be an important use case. But again, we also have to consider that there is people already thinking about robot ethics. So we have to even think about how does a robot feel, in that situation.
And that's a wonderful thing to bring up. I wanted to ask about that from two perspectives. From the human perspective, if a robot goes too far, can every robot have a kill switch? And then from the other perspective, my question would be, if people misuse robots, are robots really like refrigerators? Are they appliances? After all, because we are using them, and they are mechanical devices, or are we taking them for what they appear to be but aren't, which is humanoids with the term human? So, from both of those perspectives, can you tell us more?
Yes. So, I think that it's a very difficult question, to really have an answer at this stage. I think it's going to take many, many years for us to work out the answer to these questions. But I think, yes, so as far as the kind of the kill switch or turning off the robot, I'm very confident that it's possible, because ultimately these robots are programmed by programmers, and we can always put some line of code. It can even be like, if a certain combinations of words are set in a sequence or something, the robot will shut down. Doesn't have to be a physical switch, right? So you can always insert this line of code in the computer's brain, or computer's digital brain. But then maybe some people will say that maybe the program can reprogram itself and remove that that line of code. So again, it's difficult to 100% say that we can turn off the robot. I think that at least in the early stages we can, but it's not beyond possibility that whatever code we put in the robot, some kind of shutdown routine, so to speak, that the robot could reprogram itself to remove that those lines of code which is in its hard drive or RAM, whatever. And then the second question is about again related to kind of robot ethics. So for example, should we allow people to be violent to robots if they want to, or to do things which, if they did it to humans, we would find unethical? And it's hard to say, because there is some argument that it's much better for if a human can do some kind of bad thing like violence or whatever. It's better to do it to a robot than to a human. Yes. There's that argument. But then there's the other argument too, that if people are really going to fall in love with robots and fall in and have empathy for robots, and someone comes in and is violent to your robot, would you feel protective of your robot? Probably people would. I think just when we're for humans living in the real world, we're not mathematical creatures or digital creatures, and then we think, okay, this is a robot, so we can ignore how we treat them. But we will feel empathy, especially if the robots are intelligent, are talking to us like humans. We'll feel empathy. Just like now, you can feel empathy for your pet cat, even your pet hamster. People would feel very bad if you treat animals badly, and maybe we will. Just like now we have animal rights, we also will have robot rights in the future. And I think that it's because of the fact that, even though they are machines, even though robots are are not human creatures, but we could feel love and empathy for them. So then, we probably will want to give them some kind of rights, robot rights. And this is not beyond the realms of possibilities. A human society can adapt and can change very rapidly. So, even 10 years ago, we would never imagine that homosexual marriage is not only legal in USA, but is constitutional rights. So they should get married. And then you just think 50 years ago, black and white people couldn't marry together in some states, and that kind of sounds outrageous now. So so I think human society will adapt, and we will have some basic rights given to robots, and even if they're not alive in the way that humans are alive, but they are definitely going to be some kind of digital creatures which have at least a very, very high stimulation of intelligence and emotion.
It'll be very interesting to see what happens with the projection. If humans are creating these machines and the virtual reality that comes along with it, and then they project onto them their own emotions, just like some people do with pets. I mean, animals are very special and they do have feelings, but at the same time, people can place onto a dog or a cat that it's this and that and all this stuff, and it could be just barking or meowing because it wants to go to the bathroom, but you can take it as it's telling you that it loves you. And so the projection aspect is so impactful that I think that's going to be the boundary with the robot ethics, when we either try to project our feelings onto them or if we take them for what they really are. And how important do you think projection is to both the building and the future of robotics?
It's true. I mean, we tend to, we're naturally anthropomorphic. The way that we think is because of the way that we are, we are physically in this world with human bodies, with two legs, with two arms, with two eyes, and psychologists, neuroscientists have pretty concretely shown that our thinking is based on our body, how we have mental maps of our body, and so we're not, like our brains are not separated from our body. We're totally all integrated, and our thinking is affected by our body. So similarly, if we make robots which are humanoid, which appear to be very intelligent, which we can have natural conversation with, which we can feel friendship with, we can feel love with, then we will project our own humanness onto those robots. Just like you said, when we have pets, I think we can fall in love with a pet, even though they're not humans. And from an evolutionary perspective, it doesn't really make sense to fall in love with another species, because it's not going to you're not going to reproduce yourself in that way. But we're not just digital computers. If you have empathy for other human beings, then that empathy will extend to other animals and even inanimate objects. Even now, children, for example, they might have a favorite teddy bear, or people have like Lucky Charm. So even totally inanimate objects, we can project our humanity onto them. Let alone if you have these robots which are almost human-like in every way. So I think yes, we will project our humanness, and we naturally think from a human perspective, because we think because of our bodies. Our bodies and brains are one.
Tell me, Are there any specific things in the robot that are beyond, that will deliver things beyond humans? In a way, how does a sex robot recharge itself? Does it need any kind of washing and cleaning? Or how does it, how do you upkeep it? And can it do anything for itself that we can't do as humans?
Yes, yes. Well, I mean, I think definitely, of course, robots will be able to, surpass humans in many ways. I mean, already, we have very, very intelligent computers, and last year, a computer beats, a human in the game Go, which is, kind of a Chinese or Japanese game with kind of like checkers. But it's got so many combinations that people were saying, no computer will be able to beat a human until maybe 2050. But, it happened in 2016. So the robots are surpassing humans in many, many ways. And I think anything which can be done mathematically or mechanically, the robot and computer can surpass humans. So, for example, just on a basic thing, robot will never get tired. Will always be in the mood. If you program the robot to always be in the mood for having sex, it will. And whereas humans get tired, and they're not always interested in having sex, and they feel like sleeping and also, working and whatever. So, in many ways, even on a very simple way, robots could surpass humans. It doesn't mean that humanity becomes irrelevant. I think that we as humans will go to a higher level of humanity, because we don't a lot of things we don't think about anymore. 100 years ago, I think children used to learn 25 times tables, and now we think, well, why would you do that? It's a complete waste of time. But at that time, it was important when they didn't have pocket calculators and computers and things. So, but now, a lot of things we don't need to learn anymore. And I think, we're human brains to think more and more creative things and more higher order things in our brains. So I think it won't be robots taking over humans. It'll be robots actually will help to improve humanity. We can think about more and more high level creative things. And even and what you said about the mechanics. Surely if we can program a robot to have sex, and we can program the robot to plug itself to electricity. Maybe it's wireless charging in the future. You don't have to plug yourself in. It's we already have mobile phones with wireless charging, and you could program a robot to clean itself. In fact, you could probably program robots to be more clean than humans. So even in this way, it could surpass humans. And a lot of people don't like to. Now I think a lot of people don't like to go to visit prostitutes because they think it's a little bit unclean, and the robot can be as clean as you want, and so I think it can do all those things, and we'll be able to have all those details, aspects of the robot to be solved. I think that it's definitely within the realm that robots will actually be surpassing humans in many ways, including including sex robots. But not to take it a negative thing, I think humanity will improve because somehow we can have more time for being more creative or thinking higher level order things or inventing new things. What's going to be the next thing after robots?
That's wonderful and fascinating. I agree with you about them helping society, and a couple of interesting things. For example, there's sperm banks, and sometimes somebody buys sperm and needs to inseminate. could the robots do the function of actually inseminating? Another question is, in some Asian countries, in brothels, they have sex robots and human prostitutes, and they cost the same amount of money. So is that probably because it's a new thing and it's just something to try out, or is the value of sex robots equal to that of humans? And lastly, on this question, is it possible for robots to give STDs to humans, or do you think the cleaning capacity is so much stronger that the robot could disinfect itself after every use? And if so, would the manufacturer be somebody who would be liable for something like that?
Yeah. Well, I think the sex robots now, still we're in the very, very early stage. So I don't think it's going to be anywhere near what we're going to have in the future. And the artificial intelligence aspect is still definitely not there. But I think for now, it's probably the novelty factor. Why people want to pay.
Hello.
The robot, actually, visiting prostitute. I think a lot of people find it a little bit uncomfortable. It's kind of a strange situation. And maybe people feel a bit uncomfortable. They feel much better with the robot because they feel more comfortable. Maybe they can enjoy the sex more in that situation. With the prostitute, if it's a robot, because they feel less uncomfortable with the situation. So, and as far as transmitting diseases and things, I of course it is. I think it's possible because obviously any object which people are sharing you could have transmission of. I mean, I'm not a medical person. I'm an engineer, but I can see the possibility that any object which people share in a sexual way, it could have bacteria. Of course, you could think of some fantastic cleaning mechanism which will get rid of all bacteria. I'm sure it's possible, but I think really at this temporary stage, I think people won't visit robots to have sex. I think they'll just buy one, and they'll just go to the store and buy one or order it through the internet. Because just like now, I mean, who would think anyone would need to share a computer anymore? Nobody does. Everyone's got their own computer. Everyone's got their own smartphone and tablet PC. So I think very similarly, we will just have our own robot and maybe more than one, maybe a few robots in the house, and then they'll be tuned exactly to what we want, how we want them to look, how we want them to act, what is their personality. So I think the question of transmitting diseases probably wouldn't happen because we're going to have our own robots in our house. I think that's going to be the norm. Just like now, it's normal everyone has their own computer, whereas maybe at the very start, at the dawn of computing, we had mainframe computers, we were sharing computers, but we're not doing that anymore.
You brought up an amazing point about the fact that robots can make somebody feel more comfortable. The fact that different sexes or different people to each other can make each other feel judged or shamed. Whether there is real judge or shame isn't the factor of how the person feels. Somebody can feel judged or shamed by a person, but a robot most likely won't give them that feeling. That's a very, very important point. If there are many people who like variety, who aren't satisfied with one person or one robot or one doll, and maybe they don't want to necessarily purchase a variety of robots, is there such a thought or a plan to create a kind of a shape-shifting robot who can transform physically, so that there's almost every day or every week there's a new version of itself with multiple,
Yeah. That's a very good question. Very good question. Yeah. I mean, I think it's maybe I think there's two things that can be changed. One is the personality, which can be done in software. That's very easy. You basically just maybe you download a. There'll be a website of the company that makes the robot. You can just download a new personality and install it onto your robot. So that can be easily done because it's software. And for the physical aspect, maybe you don't have to replace everything about the robot. The arms and legs, main parts of the robot maybe are very similar, and you're changing the face and the hair. And maybe that also can be easily done, just like now we can change the. People express their personality with their phone covers. You can buy a phone and then put a different cover on it. One is for protecting a phone, but also people are showing their personality with the different kind of covers that they buy. You can change the phone cover every day if you want, if you have a different cover. So, and we could think of a lot of different models. For example, like the old Netflix where you got a DVD. Sent to your house and you send it back, another DVD. Maybe that would be another model where, you want to change the appearance of your robot, you just send the head back. If you get another head, you plug it onto your robot. Because probably the body, maybe would be almost the same anyway. But so, we really could think of a lot of different models about how this could work. But yes, I think it's definitely possible. And you're right, people would like variety. And on a related note, I don't know whether if a married couple, let's say the wife has sex with a robot, is that committing adultery? I don't know. We don't know the answer to that yet. Really, because it's never happened before, really. But for those people who are basically happily married, but they maybe the husband or the wife would like some sexual variety. Maybe the robot can fulfill that need without them having to have a affair with a human person. But then there's the other question whether having sex with a robot if you're married is the same as having an affair. So these are questions that we have to answer. But I think maybe it is better to have the sexual variety with the robot rather than having many other boyfriends or girlfriends.
That brings me perfectly into, I just recently released on Kindle an innovative story called Robo Jealousy. In it, it's the other way around. It's the robot that becomes jealous of her boyfriend's ex-girlfriend. So the robot becomes jealous of the human, and then she does something very naughty. So I was wondering, how possible is it? I mean, jealousy, after all, when it comes to sex and love, is probably in the top 3 feelings, I'd say. How possible is it, because jealousy is so instinctual, for the robot to possibly feel jealousy? And then back to the question before, which is ethics. Who is going to write the ethics book on robotics, on humanoids and sexual humanoids? Who is going to be in charge of that? Do you have any suggestions?
I don't think there's anyone in charge of that. I mean, there could be, but I think just like now, when you drive a car and you crash the car, well, the manufacturer of a car is not responsible for the crash. Everyone has to buy insurance. I think it's illegal to not drive without insurance. So I think when you buy a robot, there will be some kind of insurance taken. If the robot does something wrong or does something bad, it's not really we can't really blame the robot. It's just a machine, and we can't also really blame the programmer or the manufacturer. It doesn't really make sense. I think it's going to be very, very similar to what we have now for cars. Everyone has to have insurance, and we just work it out legally without real blame. If there's some quick crash or accident with a car. But you're right, jealousy, I think, is very, very much part of human love, human attachment. It's a very essential part. In fact, I was reading an article that the whole thing about the 60s and they had those kind of communes and free sex, everyone had sex with each other. It didn't last very long didn't last very long at all because people just naturally got jealous, and they had when you form attachments, jealousy was part of it. That's why this whole thing, lasted for a few in the 60s and maybe a little bit in the 70s too. But a lot of those kind of communities kind of fell apart, and a lot of fighting went on, and and it wasn't a very good situation. So I think it's a very natural part. It's something within the human nature. For whatever reason, we've been evolving over millions and billions of years, and when we fall in love with someone, we feel kind of jealous if they have loving feelings for someone else instead of us. I guess it's some kind of natural evolutionary. Must be some advantage for us to feel jealous. Otherwise, we wouldn't have developed this personality to feel jealous. But I think we if we want robots to be realistic, yes, we will program them to have or at least simulate jealousy as well, and because that will make them we will feel them they are more human-like because of this characteristic. But also, of course, it is possible to say, okay, I'm going to build a robot which feels zero jealousy because it's basically programming in code, and so it's possible to do that. But probably most people say, yes, no, I want a robot who loves me and feels jealous about me, because I feel that's kind of that's like a real human love. So we will program that into robots. But of course, like you said, if they do something wrong, like jealous lovers, they'll go and shoot someone with a gun. If a robot does that, who do we blame? It's a very difficult question. But I think we're going to have some kind of liability insurance. Whenever you buy a robot, there'll be insurance to cover. Okay, maybe the shooting was a bit of a drastic example, but let's say the robot hits someone else, so we have some insurance to compensate for that, for example.
And what about the ethics part? Is there what kind of committee do you think is going to form to do this?
Yes, well, I think that it could be someone who writes a book of ethics. That's like religion, So we have the Bible and the Ten Commandments are there, and all the different religions. That's kind of like a command from above, so to speak. So it could be the fact that we appoint someone or some group of people to do ethics of robots. But I think in general it's going to be some combination of regulation from government, and also there'll be cases that go to court, and they'll probably go up to the Supreme Court, and then judgments will be made, because like right now a lot of the answers we can philosophize about it, for 10 years and not find the answer, practical answer. So I think there'll be some combination of regulation by government. There'll be some combination of things will happen, things will go to court, they'll have the Supreme Court, and then decisions will be made by the Supreme Court judges, and other things maybe on a lesser scale will be decided by the companies. The companies themselves who build these robots don't want to be seen as unethical companies. I hope most of them would want to be seen as ethical companies. So then they also will naturally try to have some ethical aspects. Try to embed ethical aspects into the robot. So I think it's going to be a combination of just like with other aspects of technology or society. It's going to be a combination of the companies, the public, academics, and there'll be cases which go to court, be decided by the Supreme Court. There'll be some regulation, etc. And it'll evolve. It'll evolve over time. I remember when I was a young kid, I didn't have to wear a seatbelt. Nobody thought of wearing a seatbelt. We just jump in the car and didn't wear seatbelts. But of course now, not only do you wear seatbelts, but you have special seats for babies, special seats for infants, and everything evolves as we go along, and society evolves. It becomes sometimes more conservative, sometimes more liberal, and I think we'll see evolution about these ethical aspects as well. And as going back to the previous example, things which society thinks is unethical now, in 10 years' time may think it's no problem. It's like the example of homosexual marriages. Now it's a constitutional right in America. Who would have thought that 10 years ago? It would have been impossible to even imagine that, really. Someone said that they'd be laughed off probably, but now it's a constitutional right. So society does evolve and can evolve very rapidly, and we can and we can easily adapt to these situations.
Well, we've been speaking with Professor Dr. Adrian David Cheok, and this has been a very interesting conversation about sex robots. To finish it up, I just want to say, I'd love to interview a sex robot along with you in a next show. It would be amazing to have both you and a sex robot speak.
Yes.
Hopefully one day. And I wonder if Isaac Asimov's rules from iRobot will be added to the ethics one day. We shall see.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, it could be that could be a starting point. And when we build very, very complex machines, even if you have these kind of basic rules, you can always think of possibilities. There will be some exceptions, and or things will go wrong. Machines are not perfect. Humans are not perfect either. So I think yes, we can put these like you said, Asimov's rules, but we also have to we're considering very complicated systems, these robots and artificial intelligence, and they might be able to have a kind of thinking for themselves even, and also they're dealing with humans. So if you put all those factors together, I think we can't just we can put the rules there, but we also have to have mechanisms. What happens when something goes wrong? What happens when robots go wrong? And I think that way we can cope better with any potential negative effects.
And the final question for the interview. Do you think that sex robots will be able to make breakfast for their lovers?
Sorry, it was a bit fuzzy. Could you say that again? Sorry.
Do you think that a sex robot could make some eggs in the morning for the human counterpart?
Oh, yeah. Yes, definitely. I mean, I think the mechanics of if the mechanics of sex is very, very complicated. I mean, I don't want to sound like it's a solved problem. It's going to take a few years of quite a few years of research to get it right. So, once we can get robots to successfully have sex in a very realistic way, definitely you can cook the eggs or, clean your house, do anything, or do almost any other task you want. So I think these robots are going to be very, very useful for our whole life, emotional life, sexual life, and just our personal life, working life. They're going to be helpful in many, many ways, I think.
Wonderful. It's been a true pleasure and a privilege speaking with you, Dr. Cheok. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
And also...
thank you so much. Great to talk.